Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I will now call to order this special meeting of the Town Council. And we normally don't begin special meetings with prayer, but I will tell you that, as many of you have heard, I'm sure, Mr. Jerry Wilson, who served in these chambers for 41 straight years, passed away Saturday, the longest serving councilman in town history. I would ask if you join me in a moment of silence for Mr. Wilson. I thank you, and his arrangements will be services at 11 o'clock Saturday at the Presbyterian Church and visitation Friday from 5 to 7 at the church. Made a lot of good things possible in Blackstone. We're here for two items, and I called this meeting for two reasons, basically. It's not a lot of drama, but I have been, over the last several months, I've had firsthand experience of the problem, as many of you have, of stray dogs, which are nothing new in our community, but it seems to have really reached a crescendo in the last few months. And then I was tagged on Facebook. We had two mailmen bitten in the last 2 weeks. Another one was chased by either stray dogs or dogs that were running loose. And it really kind of, I think we've all known the reality that in Blackstone, if we're going to take care of animal control, it's going to fall on Blackstone and not Nottoway County. They are hiring a warden that they anticipate will perhaps take the place of the one that's been suspended. They don't know how that will pan out. But in the course of the correspondence on Facebook, John Rourke, who is an animal lover, very compassionate, but he's also, a thing I like about John is fearless. While I'm kind of skittish around dogs barking and creatures that slither, John goes in folks' houses and crawls in dark places and gets them. And someone had mentioned John's name as possible help. I corresponded with John. Of course, I know anything we do on a paying for services, we have to RFP it. If we seek to hire someone, we have to advertise it. But John and I have talked a little bit, and John is interested in potentially becoming considered as a town animal control officer. Any animal control officer in Virginia must be certified. Unlike a police officer, which has 6 months in the academy, an animal control officer can be certified in 3 weeks. It's about $1,000. And we may not be at that level yet, but John offered to me, meanwhile, to be on an on-call volunteer basis to catch strays as the police department gets calls, which y'all have had a lot of calls lately, on both people and dogs. Of course, the people calls are more important, but usually. But I want to throw it out to the council. Philip, the town manager, and I have corresponded a little bit, and if we can't take action tonight, I just want y'all to be aware, and maybe Philip has a proposal or some ideas, that we can do something concrete, because the people in Blackstone are getting frustrated. They're frustrated about seeing, and this is a whole nother matter, animals are going to the bathroom on the sidewalks. We have an ordinance against that. The owners are not scooping it up. But the strays are a safety issue. It's a health, general safety, welfare issue of our town.
Excuse me, did y'all vote on the dispatcher fee?
At the last council meeting, Mr. Nash voted to send them a check for 55% of the...
the invoice? Have you cut the check?
I don't know if we cut the check yet or not.
Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
You know?
Keep Mr. Green has got some... Okay. Very good.
I'll give you a few things that John and I and Ronnie Rourke and I have talked about today and yesterday. The county does have an animal control officer hired as of this afternoon about 3:30. They hired somebody. He is a certified animal control officer, so he does not have to go off to school. He is already certified. Okay. And so we should be receiving services again without having to call Amelia County or Prince Edward County or somebody else to fill in. So,
that's good.
It's a 2-week notice, so it'll stay status quo for another 2 weeks as far as the county is concerned with animal control. Is the county intending on hiring anybody else other than that? No. One animal control officer of the county. They have no plans to add a part-time kennel attendant, anything like that. It's one position. Should start in 2 weeks and certified. We talked a little bit today, John and I went through the state code. Neither of us are attorneys, but we did our best to try to understand, because there are specific rules about animal control. Animal control, John being licensed as a wild animal specialist, is that the proper term? Wild animal guy. He can get squirrels and possums and bats out of your house and all those kind of things. He is not authorized to pick up companion animals, and that's the proper term for cats and dogs. You've got to be a licensed animal control officer with the state of Virginia in order to be authorized to pick up companion animals.
How about strays that don't have a collar? That's just...
Dogs and cats are companion animals.
Okay.
However, an individual, myself, any of you, who happen to chance find, and the term in the code is find an animal, you're entitled to hold that animal up to 48 hours, but you're obligated, if you stop and pick up an animal on the side of the road, you're obligated to feed it, house it, keep it warm, do all those kinds of things, just as a shelter would, under penalty of a class 4 misdemeanor or some kind of thing like that. Okay?
Wow.
So an individual can pick up an animal, a companion animal, and carry it to the shelter, or they can retain it for 48 hours, but within that 48 hours, they have to contact a public or private shelter. John could not pick up on dispatch, or if he's called by the police or called by a citizen to go pick up an animal without having to go through the state certified, Criminal Justice Academy certified courses, which start in May.
Well, how about our police officers? Are they allowed to?
They are an officer.
So they're allowed to pick up.
They're an officer.
Okay.
Okay? They can pick them up, but they really don't have anywhere to put them, in all honesty. We chased a pit bull yesterday for an hour and a half. Jason Robertson and I were back and forth to try to catch that rascal, and John actually picked it up. He called up and said, man, I got 2 dogs. And I said, black and white pit bull, he said, yeah. Man, he had tried to catch that dog all day. And he put it in the truck and he carried it over there, did a great job, and it all worked out. And
Carried to where? Not away? To the
carried
pound?
carried it to the shelter as a fine. In violation of his permit or his licensure, he found the dogs. He called me and said, man, I got a new pit bull standing in the middle of Northwest Avenue. What do you want me to do? I said, you can put your hands on it and get it over to the shelter. Sure enough, he caught it. And I think the dog was a little vicious. Yes, he was. So I'm glad we were able to get him. The owner called me and said, I understand you were trying to catch my dog. And I said, black and white pit bull? Yep. And I said, yeah, call
Did
the
we write
shelter.
him a ticket?
I can't write a ticket.
Did he have a collar?
Collar, but no tag.
Go to their front door, write
We
him a
know who it
ticket.
is, and the people have had to deal with it.
Yeah, I think unlike speeders, where I appreciate the compassionate side of the PD on warnings, I think on these animals,
You don't care. I wouldn't-
ticket first. I really believe. Even if my Labrador goes beyond the electric fence in my yard, ticket me. I'll pay
The
it.
issue with the police department is they don't have, if you catch a pit bull, put it in the backseat of the police car, probably not the place to do it, okay? That's the bigger issue, all right? So I don't think bringing John on as a temporary stopgap can work unless we can work just as, and Ronnie Rourke and I have spoken about this today, that John could work under the supervision of the animal control officer, just like we do wastewater operators. We have operators in training.
Right.
Because the state code says if you bring somebody on and hire them as a deputy animal control officer, within 2 years, they have to be certified. As of July 1, it's 1 year certification. But, so a deputy animal control officer can work under the supervision of the animal control officer with the intention of being trained. However, the animal control officer who was just hired this afternoon said, sure, I don't mind John working, but if he's gonna work under my supervision, I got to visually watch what he's doing. Okay?
What good is that?
At 2 o'clock in the morning, it's no good.
What-
that's
You can call him instead of having to call both of them.
yeah.
May I ask a silly question? How can one person cover Nottaway County? What is it, 40,000 acres?
I probably have an
more than that.
unusual understanding of animal control that many others don't share. I've been the county administrator before. Amelia County is area-wise smaller. If you take Pickett out, I think Nottaway's actually a little smaller, or factor in Pickett. And we have fewer people than Nottaway County, and we couldn't do it with one. We have 3 in Amelia.
Did you really? 3?
I would think 3 would be
2
adequate.
full-timers.
I wouldn't think it would be
We have
overboard.
2 full-time animal control officers, and we have 1 part-time kennel attendant. And
So
that person
talking to
does
Mr.
nothing
Roy-
but adoption, feed, water, clean, arrange adoptions, do like, the officer stuff.
So talking to Mr. Rourke, basically you heard, yeah, y'all go on and keep doing stuff we ought to be doing. Is that
I agree.
is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, they're gonna hire 1 person.
Well,
They're
at
not
some
gonna
po- at
make
some
any
point-
additional effort.
At some point, our citizens of this county, town included, is going to have to step up and say, county, what are we getting for our taxpaying dollars? And I'm sorry, one officer
School and a
is
dump.
poor
It's school and a dump is what you
with
get.
how many, I mean, some of your animal companion people are here tonight. How many kennels are out at the pound?
12, isn't it? Just 10.
So if we pick up all the dogs in Blackstone and they're full out there, what are we going to do with them?
And the bad thing is, I know that
They go get killed.
that we don't. I know. I don't want. I like the effort that's going toward non-euthanization. I think Nottaway is certainly euthanization is a possibility. I think we're euthanizing less than we used to, which is good. But and a sidebar here, just to be totally candid, I talked to the chief because Chief and I talked, and I relayed to y'all that he does have an officer on staff that is interested in the animal control position as a part-time. But the only problem the chief has right now with the retirement of Clyde Rothgeb and the officer undergoing surgery, you're as thin as you've been since you've been chief in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So that officer can't explore that, and according to what you just said with the state code, we can't really do it.
How about break it down for me in first grader terms, okay? So what can we all, like Mr. Rourke's services, how can we put him to work?
County has
What I'm hearing
I
is
think you have to work on
roadblock.
the supervision of the county.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean,
I think
that's like asking two men to carry a
I
5-gallon
think you
bucket.
gotta
I mean,
wait
what-
until May and send somebody to academy, and a 3-week course if they teach at criminal justice academy, and then make a move from then, right? If you're intent on a part-time or full-time or whatever, I think you gotta wait till the 1st of May.
I think us as a council, if we all agree, we should adopt a resolution and send to the county petitioning for an additional officer up there.
And
Animal control.
meanwhile, be prepared to have someone to go get trained in May. And
You'd
we-
be agreeable to do that.
And legally, like I said, I'm pulling for John because I know John. I've seen him in action. I've seen it. Your Facebook pictures alone make me sometimes. I'm like, I'm not man enough to go in the attic and get 6 baby raccoons or 3 snakes. I'm just not. You're not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So what I'm hearing is, and I'm trying to gauge the interest here is to wait till May and work out a deal with Mr. Rourke and hire him as a town employee. Is that right?
Well, I think wait till May and then not necessarily say Mr. Rourke, but as the mayor said, we would advertise and
Of course.
select the most
Of course.
qualified.
And to be honest,
Well, then, I mean, I just kind of let that check kind of wait a while before it gets sent.
I don't have a good solution as a stopgap measure.
I'm sick and tired of District 5 not being considered part of Nottaway County. And then the bulk of the revenue for the county, the bulk of the revenue that's going to the county is District 5, which is the corporate limits of Blackstone, basically.
nothing against Mr. Rourke, and I like the idea of volunteering, but I don't see that the citizens of Blackstone should ever have to pay for an animal control officer if its services are supposed to be provided from the county. So come May, I'm not gonna be for it in the budget, no.
It's not just this, there's several areas that fall in that same category. That,
Well, this is kind of like, I'm ready to draw a line in the sand,
we're the
Sam.
stepchildren of the county.
Well, I mean, it's just enough's enough to me. I mean, seriously. I mean, we all just go ahead and annex the county is what we ought to do. But, I'm seriously, when do we stop?
But let's stick with what we do know. We do know that we have some people that are interested in helping us, which is good. Mm-hmm. We do know that May is just around the corner.
Correct.
So I would recommend, if council does not wish to do so today, at the February 27th meeting, authorizing an advertisement for a part-time. Because one thing I will say, Frank Radcliffe was wonderful. That it got a little out of control. It got a little costly. Not that, and Frank was great, and he may have been cheap, but I know that there were times where we were in the full-time animal control business, and Frank was good about. He'd help out at action, so he was great, a great extra set of eyes and ears. But I think we really needed, and Mr. Nash, your point is well made about. It's a shame it's come to this, but meanwhile, our citizens are suffering. Our mailmen are getting bitten. Their blocks are not. They're being told not to deliver the mail. And it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, it looks like it falls on us. Luckily, we have a good steward who's looking after our finances. But let's advertise for a part-time and see what happens.
I offer a motion to move forward with advertising for a part-time or full-time animal control officer with the May timeframe in line. You can word it however you
Try to get them
want
hired in, say, April, and then May 1st, I
School
think.
costs
once-
$1,000.
I think that's right.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
I want to add one other thing. One of the issues that we do have with the county on a regular basis is that the county ordinances do not prohibit running at large.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, we can't. Like I said, all we can do is control. But once that county dog, once the person lives by Slaws, their dog runs at large. That's great.
So
Except for-
oftentimes those calls to the county about dogs running at large don't often draw a lot of interest.
But once that dog comes in town limits and it's running at large, that person can be ticketed. He's allowed a dog.
Our people can get them.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
I think the county enforces, and Chief, jump in if you have anything additional, but on a couple of occasions, the question has been, has the dog bitten anybody? Are they vicious? Is there any problem? No, they're just down the street. Well, you can write them a ticket under your town's code. So I don't know if that always draws, so having somebody locally in town, albeit I don't like spending the money, does make some sense because I don't think the county's terribly excited about writing under town ordinances.
Call
Let me
for
ask
the
you a
question,
question,
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Sir?
How many tickets have we written to people for dogs at large?
I would venture a guess, Chief, you correct me, I would say no more than 4 a year, based on my looking at the police report. And usually it's after a dog bite, you know, because you have bigger fish to fry. Unfortunately, you're short of staff. You know, you have other serious felonies that take place in the course of a month.
Well, I would say, Mayor, that when Frank was here, we were really aggressive with the animal control, and then when Frank left and the county took over, you know, we're guilty of calling the county. So I'm not really sure what they've done. You know, we monitor what they do in more serious calls. Something if a dog is running at large and has attacked someone. A lot of times we've gotten involved and we've issued court appearances for them to help out Ray. Just on our own, probably about 5.
5 a year.
I would like to see between now and May, I don't know what staff would do it, but I would like to make some comparison with similar counties, such as Amelia and Dinwiddie and Lunenburg and maybe even go as far north as Orange, you know, but and find out how many animal control officers they do. And if we find out that they've got, you know, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 or whatever it is, then I think we ought to write a letter to the county and ask for the same coverage that our sister counties are getting. Right. And if they refuse to do so, then I think we should send them a letter or whatever, have a meeting with them and tell them we need these services for our constituents and we want you to foot the bill.
Well, I've got a question to Chief. Can the county ACO write running at large in the town limits? Can he write on a town ordinance?
I think so.
I know they don't like to, and they resist it.
I'll be honest, I don't have the official answer to that. Because I know I've heard Ray talk about writing summonses for that. Because I've offered to help him in the past, and he said he would address it.
Okay.
So it might be possible. I'd have to double check.
Well, let me ask you this. I believe this might answer the question. Can a deputy sheriff who clocks Billy Colburn driving 40 down Main Street write me a ticket for speeding in Blackstone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's
That I think the answer is yes to that question. I think the county, if that's the way the county town law enforcement hierarchy is and allows them to, let me ask this, can your officer who's coming back from the courthouse write somebody ticket somebody going 80 by Slaws out in Ottawa County?
no.
You cannot, okay. The county supersedes the town.
We don't have the enforcement ability.
Now,
Right,
if you engaged them in the town limits, you could pursue them outside the town limits, but not
Gotcha.
vice versa.
Gotcha.
One call for the question.
One more question. When you do do a cursory review of counties, try to look at some counties that have multiple towns and see what that relationship is between town and county.
Charlotte County would be a good one. They got a bunch of
Lunenburg as well. Lunenburg.
Right.
I will.
I would like to explain the motion that you're.
I would like us to move forward with advertising, to put out an RFP for an animal control officer.
That would start in May. Training.
That would start
So where's the
training in
money
May.
gonna come from?
Well, we'll worry about that.
I think that's all premature. I agree. Let's pay John $1,000 to go to academy, and if he wants to continue to volunteer with that, that's great. But how can we, outside of budget, go and hire somebody right now?
You can't volunteer. Look at the liability you have.
If he gets the $1,000,
Now he's got
the training.
He's got to be an actual employee. Now,
right.
you can't pay him less than minimum wage. I hope he doesn't work for minimum wage. But he's got to be a formal employee of the town of Blackstone in order for us to send him to the academy.
To send him to the academy.
Send him to the academy. They will only take employees of the town. You can't just be a freelance,
Get the
guy.
ball
I'm
rolling.
simply moving to do the paperwork.
Certainly, Mr. Nash, you are correct in the budget. You're looking at this is a budget discussion for the July
It's
1
gonna happen
budget.
before the budget, though. Is what it sounds
No,
like. I mean,
it
we're
will
going to be
not.
spending money prior to the budget.
I don't think so. I don't know. We don't have it in discretionary fund.
If he wants to go to the academy to be certified, he's got to become a town employee prior to April. So yes, money has to be spent.
$1,000
This is
plus.
way,
You gotta
it's
pay him,
premature,
as
I
we learned
believe.
with other officers going to the academy, at a minimum, we got to pay them minimum
It
wage
is
to go to the
premature.
academy.
I mean, I agree we need the help, but without a budget, I don't think it's premature. I mean, that's spending money prior to our budget season.
We have a motion second on the floor. I do want to hear Mr. Rourke, and then I'm going to call for the question.
Yes, I want, any work that I would do, the money to be taken out and given back to the town for the cost of that, the $1,000. I would want the town to take that money back. I do not want it to be
Colin.
just basically coming from the, it would have to be initially because that's what they require. But any check that is written to me, that $1,000 comes back to the town first.
Okay. All right. Whose turn is it to vote first? Is it still?
I didn't hear a
We're in
second.
February. We're in February. Ms. Thompson second.
Okay.
We're in February, and it will start. Have a roll call vote starting with Mr. Hamner.
Would you state the,
Authorize the town manager to start the process, the paperwork, to look into the possibility of hiring a part-time or full-time animal control officer. Aye.
No.
That motion carries 6-1. I do want to, Mr. Nash has made some good points. And I think the good news is that the only cost that's really being borne by Mr. Green's motion this time is advertising. But it is a very real discussion to be had in the budget discussion. And
I would ask you to refer the matter to finance now, and we'll get this hashed out and come back to the council.
it is so ordered. I will refer that to the the Accountant and Finance Committee, not Health and Ordinance, Accountant and Finance. And Mr. Moncur would have a comment.
I agree with Mr. Nash and I agree with Mr. Green. We need the service. We don't need the cost at this point, nor do we have the apparatus to handle it. We are just not being serviced by our county, and nor are we doing anything about it now. There should be some quid pro quo from the county for services that we render the county.
Well, let me ask you this. Would the council authorize the finance committee to contact the council, the board of supervisors?
On the animal control? Members of council, I see no harm in talking.
Need a motion?
Council speaks to its motions.
I move that the finance committee is authorized to work with the county on this budget item for our animal control officer.
Is there a second to Mr. Moncur, a second to Mr. Green's motion? Any further discussion? I believe I'll call for a voice vote on this. This is just a talk authorizing the Finance Committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Rourke. Thank you, Chief.
Would you be so kind as to recognize number 4, my power forward, Dallas?
Always good to have one of Mr. Green's players in the house. Her first council meeting, but not her last.
Well,
We have one other issue, and if I do have to excuse myself in 10 minutes, it's because I have a 6 o'clock basketball practice. Mr. Norbeck, we have received correspondence from Nottaway Manor.
Correct.
That's planning a very handsome renovation, I understand.
Correct.
But they would like the new appraised value after renovations to be, just pay the current tax rate, or
And-
tax bill.
They presented us with an ordinance, and pretty close, but they presented us with an ordinance that they would like the town to advertise and to adopt. The reason it's an ordinance and not a resolution, it does have a dollar figure associated with it, and it would be an abatement of certain taxes if they were successful in their VHDA loan application, and that's where they're at. They're making application to the state for a low-income housing tax credit that will allow them to renovate the properties and receive a tax benefit, much like a historic tax credit or a conservation tax credit. They
How
get
much
more
money are we looking
points.
at?
Pardon?
Any idea roughly how much money the town would possibly be surrendering?
I don't have an exact figure, but I can provide it to you. I don't have the exact figure necessarily for the renovations. It's easy to find out what the current assessment is, but for simplicity's sake, what they're asking you to do is adopt an ordinance by where, and let's assume the property is worth $1 million, and I'm sure it's more than that, but let's say $1 million is the current value, and they put another $1 million of improvements to it, and the new assessment goes from $1 million to $2 million. They're asking that they only pay for 3 years $1.5 million on the assessment.
So we would still we would still receive more revenue
You get more revenue.
if they don't do the project.
gain.
So this is not corporate or residential welfare.
They're asking to
We're
waive
actually standing
half the
gain.
value of the improvement.
And it's only for 3 years.
3 years.
Exactly.
The ordinance calls it 3 years.
It could be worth $3 million or whatever.
So anybody that makes a renovation in town, do they have the same right to come up and say, hey, can I get an abatement of taxes for 3 years?
I guess if you go through the channels, I don't see why not.
Yeah, what makes this, I think,
Because it's a large project.
Is it the USDA that makes this?
No, it's Virginia Housing Development Authority.
Okay.
In the applications, you get credit, and if you remember, Pete Ellington came to this body, and I don't know how many of you guys were still on there at the time, it was real controversial in support of a low housing tax credit type project, and these types of projects are more feasible when you have the tax credit, just like renovating an armory or renovating ViewMac. It can reduce your construction costs dramatically, and you get more points in your application. You can still do it, and VHDA will lend you money, but remember, it's a competitive application process, and they only have so many credits a year to give, and the higher the score, and the score is enhanced when the locality supports the project.
I certainly don't see the need to penalize somebody that is taking advantage of something that is non-discriminatory and that anybody could take advantage of, Mr. Nash, you know? It's just like, you know, there's women, led companies. That's the law. I mean, you know, if you take advantage of opportunities out here, then I commend you. But I see it as you're going to collect 50% more taxes for 3 years and collect 100% more.
There's 2 points I bring to
in fair
you.
terms, is that right?
It is an enhancement of revenue, and it takes a property that you obviously don't want to see deteriorate. You want to keep it in good condition. But it really surprises me because if they were dead serious about saving money, they pay probably 150% more taxes to the county than they do to us. But they did not approach the county, they approached the town. And I proposed that topic, why don't you ask the county to do this, because you'll save a whole lot more money than coming to us. Well, sir, we're really just in the application process, and we're checking a box.
Okay.
Okay?
Still after 3 years,
It'll go to the full amount.
The assessment will be the assessment.
Yeah. And we're not asking you for action tonight, other than authorization to advertise a public hearing
We have to have a public hearing because it's an ordinance.
at the next council meeting.
Simply
That's,
advertise for public hearing, folks.
that's all we can do tonight.
Floor is open for a motion.
It's due March 3rd, so that's why we're trying.
There has to be action on February 27th, absolutely. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
Do they pay for the advertising fee?
I haven't addressed it, but Jennifer asked me the same question, and I'm sure it is a reasonable request that ask that they pay the couple $100s or whatever for the advertisement.
To advertise for public hearing with the stipulation that Nottaway Manor paid for the advertising fee.
Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion? Mr. Scott is seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. At this time, this is why we met. I see some good folks out here, good animal lovers, and thank y'all for coming. We'll get this animal thing straight, but I want the record to show, and the people watching on camera, Blackstone, the animal problem is not an animal problem, it's a people problem. There's too many folks who are not properly caring for animals, and it breaks my heart. On that sort of sad note, I'll adjourn the special meeting at 5:56.
Item tickets.
Thank you, John.
Doing all right.
Thank y'all for coming out tonight.
What I had, baby.